That feeling of spinning your wheels, staying busy but not getting anywhere, it's not because you're lazy, it's because you're living in reaction mode. Most people wake up and instantly hand over their attention. Emails, texts, the news, social media, boom. Your direction is gone before the day even begins. Most people react to their day instead of directing it. Sounds simple, but it's the invisible wall that separates high achievers from everyone else. You wake up in the morning, and within seconds, your attention is hijacked. Maybe it's your phone, maybe it's a notification, a message, or just the overwhelming noise of everything demanding your time. And without even realizing it, you're no longer in control. You're already playing defense. You're reacting, putting out fires, answering to other people's priorities, pulled in every direction except forward. This reaction mode isn't always loud and chaotic. Sometimes it's subtle. It looks like spending an hour answering emails before even deciding what truly matters that day. It looks like scrolling through social media under the illusion of staying informed. It looks like jumping into work tasks with no clear intention, just so you can feel productive while staying distracted from the uncomfortable but important work you actually need to do. Living like this creates a life of constant movement with very little progress. You're busy, but you're not effective. You're exhausted, but not fulfilled. You're doing everything, but deep down, you know you're not doing the thing. And that's the trap most people fall into, mistaking activity for achievement, movement for momentum. They go through the motions, cross things off lists, attend meetings, send messages, but at the end of the day, they feel like something's still missing. Because something is, when you're in reaction mode, you're letting the outside world dictate the quality of your day. It means other people are in charge of your energy, your time, and your priorities. That coworker who needs just 5 minutes, the inbox full of messages marked urgent, the temptation to keep checking in, refreshing, switching tabs, all of it chips away at your attention and replaces intentional action with constant distraction. And it's not just productivity that suffers. Your sense of control, creativity, and long-term progress gets buried under the noise. Now think about what it feels like to direct your day instead, waking up with clarity, taking 5-10 minutes before everything starts to simply think. To ask, what actually matters today? What's the one thing that will move me forward? What's worth my best energy? When you do that, when you decide, instead of drift, you take the wheel. You choose what gets your focus. You give your day structure and meaning instead of waiting for it to be filled in for you. The difference between reacting and directing isn't about being perfect or rigid. It's about being intentional. It's about understanding that every day gives you the chance to take ownership or to surrender it without realizing. Those who achieve meaningful success in any area, business, fitness, relationships, creativity, don't have more time or talent. They have more direction. They say no more often. They protect their attention. They decide what matters before the world has a chance to decide for them. You can't control every part of your day. Life will throw curveballs. Things will happen that you didn't plan for. But the core of the day, how you enter it, what you aim for, what you protect and prioritize, that's on you. That's your responsibility. And it begins the moment you open your eyes. Are you going to react to the noise, or are you going to rise with intention, with focus, with purpose? The habit of directing your day is not just a productivity tool. It's a lifestyle shift. And when you start practicing it, everything changes. The most powerful habit is starting your day with intentional focus. It's not a strategy, it's not a motivational quote, and it's not a trick to feel productive. It's a foundational shift in how you approach your life. It's the difference between drifting through your day and driving it forward with purpose. Most people wake up and fall immediately into reaction. They check their phones, scroll through notifications, read messages, and start answering to everyone else's priorities before they've even had a moment to think about their own. That first hour of the day, the most mentally clear and creatively potent window of your entire schedule, is surrendered to noise. But intentional focus changes that completely. It puts you back in control. It tells your mind what to pay attention to, what matters most, and what direction to take from the very first step. When you start your day with intentional focus, you're not just making a plan, you're training your brain to value clarity over chaos. You're saying, this is what I want to accomplish, this is what's important, and everything else will wait. You're creating boundaries before the world has a chance to cross them. You're establishing momentum before distractions creep in. You're giving your day a center of gravity, a target to aim for, and that alone gives you power. You're not waking up wondering what to do, you've already decided. And decision is one of the most underrated tools of success. Decision eliminates doubt, it silences distraction, it gives energy direction. Intentional focus doesn't mean cramming your morning full of rituals or rigid routine. It means taking just a few quiet moments, maybe 10 minutes, maybe 5, to ask yourself a powerful question. What is the one thing I must do today to move forward? Not 10 things, not a scattered list, just one clear, specific, meaningful action. That becomes your anchor. That becomes your priority. And once you have it, everything else falls into place. You stop trying to be everywhere and do everything. You let go of the illusion that multitasking is effective. You bring depth to your effort instead of spreading it thin. You go from trying to manage time to managing your attention. And that's where results explode. It's not about doing more, it's about doing what matters. When you're clear about your focus from the start, you eliminate the need to constantly decide throughout the day. You reduce friction. You waste less mental energy shifting between tasks and trying to remember what's important. That clarity turns into flow, that flow turns into progress, and that progress turns into confidence. Day by day, you stop feeling scattered. You stop feeling behind. You stop finishing your days asking, what did I even get done today? Because you already know the answer. You crush the one thing that counted. People think they need motivation to get results, but that's backwards. You need clarity because when you're clear, you act. When you act, you build momentum. And when you build momentum, motivation follows. That's the cycle that gets real results. And it starts with one small but powerful habit: intentional focus at the beginning of your day. Everything in your life improves when you stop starting your day with distraction and start leading it with direction. You make better decisions, you become more present, you waste less energy on the wrong things and gain more confidence from the right ones. You stop waiting for the right time, the right mood, or the right circumstances, and you start creating results from the inside out. That's what happens when you choose to start your day with intentional focus. It's not a productivity trick, it's a mindset shift that transforms how you show up to life. Clarity at the start leads to confidence in action. When you begin anything with a clear sense of direction, your steps become sharper, your energy becomes more focused, and your mindset shifts from hesitation to conviction. Too many people start their day, their project, their week, or even their life goals in a fog. They begin with a vague sense of urgency, a list of things to do, a cloud of expectations but no real clarity. And because they're unclear about what matters most, they second guess, overthink, stall, and scatter their attention. They get caught in the loop of busyness without progress, constantly moving but never really advancing. Clarity cuts through that. It eliminates guesswork. It puts a name, a face, and a purpose to what you're doing. When you know what you're aiming at, your actions become deliberate instead of desperate. Confidence doesn't just appear out of thin air. It's built through movement that has meaning. And that movement can't happen if you're mentally cluttered. The brain craves certainty. It wants to know where to go, what to do, and why it matters. When you give yourself that information right from the beginning, whether it's the start of your day or the start of a goal, you give your brain a structure it can work with. Instead of running in 100 directions, you have a straight path. Instead of wondering if you're wasting your time, you know exactly why what you're doing matters. That understanding breeds a kind of quiet internal certainty. And that certainty is what we call confidence. Think about how you feel when you know exactly what your next move is. There's a calmness in that. You're not anxiously trying to figure things out as you go. You're not looking around, comparing yourself to everyone else, wondering if you're doing it right. You're moving with clarity, and that clarity fuels your confidence. Not because you're guaranteed success, but because you trust yourself more. You trust that you're doing what matters. You trust that you're not wasting energy. You trust that you're moving with intention. Clarity is also one of the best antidotes to fear. So many people stay stuck, not because they're incapable, but because they're uncertain. Fear thrives in confusion. The more unclear you are about your goals, your actions, your values, the more space fear has to grow. It whispers all the worst-case scenarios. It floods you with doubt. It pulls you into hesitation. But when you get clear, truly clear, on what matters and what you need to do next, fear has less to work with. It loses its grip. Clarity shrinks fear and replaces it with focus. And when you focus, you act. And when you act, even imperfectly, you build confidence. Because action, even messy action, teaches you more than planning ever could. Clarity at the start doesn't mean you'll have everything figured out. It doesn't require that you see the whole staircase, just the first step. And that first step, when it's rooted in purpose and direction, is enough to give you momentum. It's enough to silence the internal noise and begin with intention. Whether you're writing, building, selling, leading, or learning, if you begin with clarity, your actions will reflect it. Your tone will change, your presence will shift, people will feel it, you'll feel it. You'll stop looking for outside validation because internal alignment creates its own fuel. So many people chase confidence like it's something they have to earn through external achievements, but it's not. Real confidence is built when you know why you're doing what you're doing. When your actions are guided by something clear, not something chaotic. It's in that clarity that your decisions become faster, your mindset becomes stronger, and your ability to handle pressure increases. You stop needing to feel ready, and you start trusting that direction is more powerful than perfection. Confidence grows every time you move forward with clarity, because in those moments, you're not just acting, you're leading yourself. Doing less with intensity beats doing more with distraction. In a world that glorifies being busy, this truth can feel counterintuitive. We're conditioned to believe that more tasks, more hours, more effort automatically translate to more success. But in reality, the people who make the biggest impact, who rise fastest and sustain long-term success, aren't the ones doing the most. They're the ones doing the right things with total focus. Distraction is the silent killer of progress. So it splits your energy, fragments your thinking, and slows down your momentum. You might be putting in time, you might be checking off boxes, but if your attention is divided, your results will always fall short. Distraction doesn't just waste time, it dilutes your potential. Intensity, on the other hand, is a false multiplier. When you give something your full focus, no notifications, no multitasking, no second screen syndrome, you collapse time. What might take 3 distracted hours gets done in one focused sprint. It's not about working harder, it's about working with presence. When you show up fully to a task, when your mind is locked in, your ideas are sharper, your execution is cleaner, and your learning curve shortens, you build deeper skill faster, you see patterns sooner. You make fewer mistakes because you're not constantly switching gears. Doing less doesn't mean doing nothing. It means choosing your battles with intentions. It means identifying the few actions that truly move the needle and pouring your energy into those with full intensity. This approach isn't about laziness or cutting corners, it's about leverage. It's about knowing that 1 hour of deep, undistracted work is worth more than 5 hours of half attention. It's about understanding that not all effort is created equal. The goal isn't to be busy, the goal is to be effective. And effectiveness demands intensity. The problem with doing more is that it spreads you thin. The more you try to juggle, the less mastery you develop. You can't go deep if you're constantly being pulled in different directions. Surface level effort leads to surface level results. But when you narrow your focus and turn up the intensity, you give yourself a real shot at excellence. You give yourself space to build something meaningful, to make real progress, and to actually feel the satisfaction of completion. There's something powerful about finishing one thing with your full presence instead of half finishing 10 things while your mind is elsewhere. Distraction isn't just external, it's also internal. It's the voice in your head that wants to avoid discomfort, that wants to switch tasks when things get hard, that wants to feel busy instead of doing the real, focused work that produces results. But intensity forces you to stay in it, to push through resistance, to stay uncomfortable long enough to grow. That's where the breakthroughs happen. Not when you're scattered across a dozen priorities, but when you're locked in on one that truly matters. Doing less with intensity also protects your energy. Instead of burning out from nonstop activity, you create space to recover and recharge between deep work sessions. You leave your day with a sense of accomplishment instead of exhaustion. You know you showed up fully, even if you didn't do everything. You stop measuring your day by how much you did, and you start measuring it by how much progress you made. Most people never tap into their real potential because they never commit to anything long enough to see it through. They're always pivoting, always chasing, always jumping between distractions. But intensity changes that. It grounds you, it locks you in. It brings out a version of you that is capable of much more than you think. Not because you're doing more, but because you're finally doing what matters with everything you've got. Your morning mindset sets your momentum. The first thoughts you think, the first emotions you allow, and the first actions you take in the morning quietly shape the pace and direction of your entire day. It's not just about routines or habits, it's about the internal atmosphere you create before the world has a chance to influence you. If you wake up anxious, scattered, reactive, and unsure, that energy follows you. It leaks into your conversations, decisions, and work. It becomes the filter through which you experience everything. On the other hand, if you wake up grounded, intentional, focused, and clear, you carry that power into every moment. Morning isn't just the start of your day, it's the launch pad of your mindset. And how you launch determines how high you ride. Most people underestimate how fragile the morning mind is. It's open, vulnerable, highly suggestible. That's why grabbing your phone and diving straight into notifications, emails, and headlines is so damaging. You're feeding your brain external noise before you've even given it a chance to hear your own voice. Instead of creating direction, you surrender it. The result is a day that feels out of control before it even begins. That's not because life is chaotic. It's because your inner world never had a chance to lead. Your mindset in the morning sets your internal compass. It determines whether you chase distractions or create outcomes, whether you crumble under pressure or rise with clarity, whether you let urgency control your energy or let purpose shape your presence. Momentum isn't random. It's a direct reflection of your mental state. When your mind is aligned, you move forward with less resistance. You don't hesitate. You don't get stuck overthinking. You just go. That's the power of momentum. It doesn't come from hype. It comes from alignment. And alignment begins in the first few quiet choices you make when you wake up. There's a big difference between starting your day by accident and starting it by design. Most people do the former. They wake up late, hit snooze, scroll for a dopamine hit, rush through the motions, and hope the day will somehow fix itself. But the mindset you build in that first hour is like emotional software. It programs your focus, your resilience, and your attitude. If that program is full of doubt, noise, and fatigue, your actions will reflect it. But if it's full of clarity, drive, and self-direction, you become nearly unstoppable. The way you think in the morning becomes the story you carry through the day. If that story says, "I'm behind," you rush. If it says, "I'm not ready," you hesitate. But if it says, "I've got this," you lead, you execute, you rise. That's why morning mindset isn't just a nice concept, it's a core strategy for high performance. Your energy, focus, and momentum all flow from your state of mind. And that state of mind is a choice you make the moment you open your eyes. You don't have to control the whole day, just control the start. Set your mindset like a compass. Aim it with purpose. And let that inner alignment carry you forward into everything you do. Results explode when effort meets direction. It's not enough to work hard. It's not enough to stay busy. You can push, grind, hustle, and pour hours into your goals. But if your energy isn't aligned with a clear target, you end up spinning your wheels. This is where most people get stuck. They believe more effort will eventually lead to breakthroughs, but what they're missing is direction. It's like running full speed without a map. You're moving, but you're not necessarily moving forward. Direction gives your effort a purpose. It gives every action a target. When you combine relentless effort with precise aim, that's when the game changes. It's when progress becomes exponential, not linear. Think about how a magnifying glass can take scattered sunlight and focus it into a single beam strong enough to start a fire. The sun was always powerful, but without focus, it wasn't productive. That's what happens when your effort meets direction. The energy you already have becomes concentrated. Your time starts producing visible results. You're not doing more, you're just doing it smarter. You stop wasting energy on things that don't move the needle. You stop reacting to whatever shows up and start building intentionally toward what matters most. You go from scattered motion to purposeful momentum. Most people overvalue intensity and undervalue clarity. They think success is about how hard you can push, how long you can grind, how much you can endure. But pushing hard in the wrong direction is just a fast track to burnout. Clarity changes everything. It tells you what to ignore. It tells you where to double down. It turns your to-do list into a strategy. And when your effort is paired with that kind of clarity, every step you take compounds. You're no longer guessing. You're executing, you're learning faster, adjusting faster, and getting stronger with every move. Effort without direction feels exhausting. You can work all day and still feel like you're falling behind because nothing connects. There's no through line. But once you bring direction into the picture, your effort begins to build something. Every task becomes a brick in the same wall. Every decision gets filtered through a purpose. That sense of alignment creates internal momentum. And that momentum becomes confidence. You no longer need to constantly evaluate if you're doing enough because you know you're doing what matters. You can feel the progress. You can see it. Direction also makes it easier to stay consistent. When you know where you're going, resistance loses power. Doubt has less room to grow. Distraction becomes easier to ignore. You're not chasing short-term validation, you're building long-term results. And because you have direction, you can measure your progress accurately. You can celebrate the right milestones, you can pivot with intention instead of panic. That stability breeds emotional resilience, and resilience keeps you in the game when things get tough. Because they will get tough. Every meaningful goal involves challenge. But with direction, the challenge becomes part of the process, not a reason to quit. It's not about perfection, it's about alignment. Effort on its own is admirable, but limited. Direction on its own is inspiring, but powerless without action. But when you bring them together, when you know what matters, and you're willing to give it everything, that's when results explode. That's when you tap into a level of performance that feels natural and sustainable. That's when you stop chasing results and start creating them. You realize success isn't about doing everything. It's about doing the right things with everything you've got.